Welcome to Accelerate OC, the only show focused on the people leading innovation in Orange County. Join our host, Kerry Ransom, in his conversations with the trendsetters, entrepreneurs, investors, and leaders here, because it's time to Accelerate OC.
Good morning. Welcome to Accelerate OC. I'm Kerry Ransom, and thanks always to our engineer, Paul, for making me and my guest always sound so good. Today's episode is sponsored by OC4 Ventures, a new venture studio and fund that I am a part of here in Orange County. We are looking for and identifying the most exciting and promising tech entrepreneurs here, and we'll support them with capital, with coaching, with collisions, with the great talent who's here in our community, and connecting them broader into the community as well. Those are our 4 C's. And if you are or you know one of those entrepreneurs, send them my way, or you can go to oc4v.com. I am super excited to have my friend Kurt Johnson here today. And before we get to talk to Kurt, his leadership philosophies, and go through his incredible journey and career as an entrepreneur, let me tell you a little bit about Kurt. He is currently the founder and CEO of his most recent startup called FreightPop, which he tells me will be his last. And FreightPop is a cloud-based software that makes logistics simple. They will provide one login for all the transportation management, things such as inbound and outbound and freight management across all the different types that a company could possibly need. He is a grizzled startup veteran, having done 6 of them. So he absolutely is characterized as a serial entrepreneur. And he's gone from his garage to $100 million in revenue, which is a very, very rare accomplishment. And we'll talk about that today. He's also had 2 exits and he's had 2 acquisitions. He also has received the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year Award. And this last startup, as he tells me, is the most important one that he's ever done. And so we'll delve into that a little bit as well. But before FreightPop, he started a company called Horizon Technology 20 years ago in his garage and started in the PC refurbishing and parts business. And after 20 years of consistent growth and profitability, as I mentioned, he got to $100 million in revenue, which is just amazing. And part of where Kurt and I have really connected is about people. He is super passionate about building the right kind of culture and environment of people that creates opportunity and engagement for them. He's created a Hopes and Dreams program for his employees, and he also has a leadership program that every new staff member goes through. And so we will definitely talk more about that today, and also provides paid time off to all his employees to volunteer in their community. He is just doing so many things right as a leader. And beyond that, Kurt is one of the smarter guys that I know as well. He graduated college with high honors. He continues to learn. I saw that he recently completed a class on data science at UCI. So we'll definitely have to talk about that today. I'm not sure I could even pass that class. Kurt, it's really great to have you here.
Thanks, Kerry. It's just a privilege to be on your show and just to be a part of what you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. So let's get to the starting line here at Accelerate OC. I teased a little bit about FreightPop, but tell the audience about it and how you got to the point of really deciding to start the company.
Sure. So as you mentioned, it's one login for all transportation management. It's kind of an Expedia for shipping across all forms of freight transportation. That could be truck or airplane or ship or rail or camel or carrier pigeon, however you ship product, we can cover that in FreightPop. So we like to say we help our customers ship smarter and ship easier. And really the genesis of it was over the last 20 years, the company you mentioned, Horizon Technology, the parent company, we learned so many shipping hacks and logistics hacks over the years of just trying to figure it out. So everything we learned over 20 years of being a distributor and getting to that high point revenue of 100 million, we poured into FreightPop and put it into one platform, and we were actually pleasantly surprised to discover a market out there that it has low adoption in terms of automation for transportation management systems, and just a fantastic opportunity. And that's one of the big reasons why I felt this opportunity is too big to not go after.
That's a really interesting way to get to an opportunity, is sort of hacking through things for years and years and then finally realizing, hey, wait, there are probably a bunch of other people out there that are hacking this as well. What if we really solved it in a more elegant way? So I would imagine too that over the 20 years that you were at it with Horizon, that there were other opportunities like that you maybe were hacking or saw. What was it that led you specifically on the shipping and transportation side?
I think it was probably timing, number one. I'll talk about in a minute, okay. But also the nature of the opportunity and the market outside of Horizon, and what we saw out there. We had, as you mentioned, I had a couple other. FreightPop is actually the fourth company within Horizon, and a couple of them we sold off. So we've incubated. This is the third one after Horizon. The other ones were fairly small, and they were also born from some of the pain points that we went through as a company, and some of the markets that we felt like there's an opportunity outside for. But I think having an entrepreneurial culture, there's almost nothing you feel like you can't do.
Sure.
And it's a kind of a blessing and a curse.
That's
because
right. That's right.
you feel like the solution's not out there in the marketplace, so let's just build it in-house here. And then I think you get sort of married to that solution, and you love it, and you say, wow, everybody will love this. So you want to offer it out in the marketplace. Oh, it just so happened to FreightPop, the marketplace and the opportunity was just much, much bigger than any of the others that we had looked at before. And the timing of it, it's always, I think timing is one of the most important criteria and factors in startup success. Maybe team is second, and then the innovation potential of the product is third, but timing is certainly the most important thing. And there's fairly low adoption rates in transportation management systems. Maybe Gartner puts it at somewhere, I'd say aggregate, around 25 to 30% of companies that have adopted. Of course, enterprise transportation management's been around for decades. But that solution, we tried that. We went 17 years with spreadsheets, and got the most we could out of spreadsheets. And then my director of operations came and begged for a solution, some software, and we used one of the enterprise solutions out there. And after a couple years of just not really taking care of our needs, and it wasn't configurable, and it didn't connect to any of our other systems internally or externally, we decided that we could build it ourselves, and we did. And we had one eye on the outside market to really look at the potential of it. So we built it ourselves, and we really liked the solution. We feel like it was born from our experience and more of a shipper perspective than someone that's building software or someone that's been in logistics. So we felt coming from the shipper perspective and make it really easy to use, easy to evaluate, one login across all the systems, make it massively connected to the outside, like to carriers and to marketplaces, to shop rates, make it seamlessly connected to the internal tech stack of our customers, so we can connect to the ERPs, the WMSs, the CRMs. So really the workflow and the process that's already in the company doesn't need to change. They don't need to migrate over to a whole different platform, a whole different solution. We sit within their tech stack, and we connect seamlessly internally and externally, able to optimize workflows, save time and labor, and also save on rates.
Well, it sounds like you have definitely cracked open a huge opportunity here. So talk to me about when you were really starting to decide, hey, we're going to go for this and really try to build it. Was the customer or ecosystem community that you were a part of, did that influence your decision? Meaning, could you take the problem to a bunch of the customers that you were distributing to or others to see if they had a similar, or was this a whole new customer segment that you were going to have to go potentially penetrate?
It's really the latter. It was a whole new customer segment. It was just a whole different level of customer discovery and market research out there. But it was something we weren't familiar with.
Which has some risk.
Oh,
for sure.
Absolutely. Lots of risks. Although, one of the differences in this startup is we employed the lean startup principles, Eric Ries's principles, pretty early on and pretty deep. And there's just a whole industry around that now and a lot of great content about it. So we relied heavily on that. And I think that de-risked it significantly.
That's great. So I know we've talked about off the air, this is the first of your startups where you've raised outside capital. So
That's
you've
right.
actually raised some venture capital. How's that experience been as someone who hasn't historically done that?
Very different. I'd consider myself a blue-collar bootstrapper, never taken outside money. And we've had debt capital, which is obviously a much cheaper form of capital. It's been different, but it's been gratifying. I think, one, it's really this is an opportunity that doesn't lend itself well to bootstrapping. It's capital intensive. That's probably one of the first factors. So over the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've really intentionally been out in the local community here, building relationships with guys like you, and you've been just a huge part of facilitating that. So I'm deeply grateful to you for that.
Of course, my
and
pleasure.
the ultimate connector here, you are. So I think that's one is having these relationships, and then being able to raise that money has been certainly a blessing. But beyond that, the advice and the guidance you get, if you can raise the right, raise from the right investors like we have, we've been very fortunate there. And although it's not always comfortable, the accountability is fantastic for growth, and we really appreciate that as well.
So let's go under the hood on that a
Yeah.
little bit more. What have you done differently in a FreightPop? You talked just briefly about accountability there versus your other businesses. Anything that you have really approached this? You mentioned lean startup as well, but are there other things that you've done differently as a result of capitalizing it the way you have, or approaching it?
Well, I think
This way.
having a new set of stakeholders, these investors, adds a different dimension. I think there's a bit more of a formality and structure that's at least implied, and all very positive. But strategically, the planning cycles are a little bit different. We're more careful on the market research and the customer discovery. I think we're more methodical than we've been, and more plan oriented and numbers oriented. And one of the things that has always fascinated me is this sort of difference between the soft edge of culture and the hard edge of execution. If you've heard of that before. And I think we've always been pretty good at the hard edge of execution, and so to be able to align with investors and their reporting requirements and they're metrics driven. So that's been sort of an easy transition for us. Bless you. That's been an easy transition for us. The soft edge of culture we've worked on evolving and developing over the last 10 years, and that's been a heck of a journey.
Well, and I feel like that it's a really interesting point you raise, because I find you to be such a what I'll call a culture keeper, a culture warrior, in how you think about that with such intentionality and such care for your people. And I actually think that has the opportunity to build way bigger, more impactful businesses, and that it's not just about numbers, right? And I think the really thoughtful investors and venture capitalists really understand that. So so to me, you seem fully in the right balance of being able to do that in the way that today's best talent and the right time horizon probably requires. So how do you think about that?
Yeah, it is that balance. And I think you have to start with why. And being on the other side of the investor founder table, I've been on both sides. Being part of the Cove funds over at Applied Innovation has been a fantastic experience, and evaluating startups that are looking for funding. One of the big questions I ask is, why are you doing this? Do you have skin in the game is the second one, and why are you doing this? So I think it starts with that, and the founder or founding team has to really answer the question why. And for me, you mentioned, I told you in private conversations, this is going to be my last one, and I'm pretty sure it is. But I
won't hold you to it. I promise.
Thank you. I don't know, one day at a time.
That's right.
I think I was all but sort of resigned to being done with startups a few years ago, but I was going through a program, the master's program. It's Bob Shank teaches this, and it's how to identify your calling. And right smack in the middle of this opportunity for FreightPop kind of surfaced within our company. And so essentially the why for me is I felt called to do a faith-driven startup, and it really just kind of grew from there. And it was, it's for me, my mantra is by His grace, for His glory, and that's my why. And I have a fantastic team that I want to see succeed. I want to pour into. I want them to prosper. And grow. And I think that really drives it for me. But, for us, you talked about culture and the importance of it. We just decided that we have different stakeholders. We've got the investors, we've got customers who we want to just provide exceptional, just be obsessive about customer experience. And then employees, we want to love on them. And I think if you're going to love on employees, you have to grow them, and growing them professionally. So that's opportunities for sure. Growing them financially, growing them personally, growing them spiritually. I think having that perspective has changed the way that we do the culture at FreightPop, and we're just starting to lay in the culture values now because we have probably enough people to make it to get some traction. And I have a good friend. He's actually an investor in the company too. And I asked him if we could borrow or steal his culture values, or he calls them the 5 Fs: faith, family, finance, which is work, and then fitness, and then fun. So I love the order of those, and I think it really speaks to the soft edge of culture and what's important. And everybody's faith, you can be different. Doesn't it's not monolithic. But family is important, and in the day-to-day, you're going to find scenarios where, okay, Kerry wants to go coach his kids' soccer team.
Basketball in my case.
Basketball,
sure.
Thank you. Sorry, you kids. But that's important. We have to remember that. Oh, that's right. Family comes above work.
Yes.
So within reason and within make up the time and be as flexible as we can. So I think having culture values like that set a good framework on how to act every day, how we treat customers, how we treat employees. And as you said, with employees, creating a culture of opportunity is critical. One of my favorite stories, I'll give you an example, is, and this was in the Horizon culture over the years, we've had a number, about 3 or 4, shipping and receiving, warehouse employees, staff that have learned to code and done development. And we just the funny story was the first guy we had outsourced, switched over to Microsoft Dynamics, and we were trying to get our this custom reporting, and I was so frustrated because the outsourced partner couldn't provide it. So I sort of kiddingly just started asking people, hey, can you figure this out? Do you want to code? And one of the guys took me up on it, and we bought him a book. That's how we learned.
That's great.
And he did it, and he pulled it off, and he turned into a developer. And now we still have we've had developers that have learned it, self-taught in classes that we put them through, and then they coded for us, and they went on to bigger and better. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, we love that. That's part of our Hopes and Dreams program. When we sit with employees and ask them, we fully recognize that they may not be there for their whole career. It's not the 50s anymore. But if they'll commit to the company goals and mission,
Sure.
Likewise we'll commit to theirs, and then we try to identify what they are. And some of them, maybe they don't know they're going to be a developer, but it comes up during that. But we had someone that ran our quality team that he was a veteran, actually, a Marine, and he wanted to be in law enforcement and had a hard time passing the test. And we happened to have a very grizzled CFO with a lot of life experience that coached him through the test, passed the test, and we lost one of our best employees, but lo and behold, he's on to his dreams. So stories like that are what makes it special.
Yes.
The journey special, and to really, it's our obligation, our responsibility to offer those opportunities. And they're not high risk.
Yes.
So we love those.
Those are amazing stories, and I think that speaks to the kind of differentiated culture that you create, and it bears fruit for sure, right?
Right.
Richard Branson said, I'm going to train and equip my people so well that they could go anywhere,
and they will.
And they probably, but more of them will probably stay,
Right.
assuming the opportunities
Right.
are there, because I think people start to realize that isn't the way most of the rest of the world operates.
That's right.
And so sometimes, I've definitely spoken to other entrepreneurs have done that kind of investment in their people to see that those people move on to other things, and in some cases come back for another season, right? And so I
That's
think
right.
that's always that idea of it's buy for now,
Yeah.
and not maybe for all time. And I think what I've experienced in my career is that some of those folks that we had a season together, but there was such a bond that I know you build with your folks, that not knowing, as you said earlier, one day at a time, what the future holds, there may be another season where it does make sense to bring that group back together. And I think the trust and the camaraderie that you have just can accelerate your ability to rekindle and put that back together.
It drives engagement, no
Yes.
doubt. And we have, you mentioned pay time off for community service, and we've learned that we want to do it as a team, because that's really where you get to connect, and you're not in the rush of the
Sure.
day of working and executing on a plan. So you get to know somebody, and you get to know them personally. But those connections are strong too, and I think getting people outside of their self. I mean, we obviously live in a sort of a selfish culture, but to have opportunities like that really drive engagement, and they drive the team building, and we're big on those, and we've seen the dividends of them for sure in the team building, and just really engagement and empowerment of the people.
And plus the impact you can have beyond,
Yes.
a group of people coming together like that, and just seeing that, you're able to take the resources you have within your company to also impact
Right.
other communities is always a really gratifying experience.
Absolutely.
So, as I mentioned earlier, you've done several startups. I saw you had recently taken a data science class at UCI. How do you, and this is something I think a lot about for myself, how do you keep yourself sharp and relevant as an entrepreneur in the technology world in 2019, 2020, and all the change that's always afoot?
Well, I think it's about learning. I have a passion for learning. That's just a gift I got from God. But however, I think it can be, I tend to be annoyingly curious and ask a lot of questions, and whether it's...
I resemble that. That's why I get to sit on this side. I get to ask all the questions.
Yeah, I haven't started with my questions on you yet. Yeah, I think I can be annoying in that, just asking a lot of questions. But I think it is sort of just an innate curiosity. And I think that's, especially with tech and how fast it moves and the compressed business cycles. It used to be that it was hard to start a company and easy to grow, and it's kind of flipped. Now it's really easy to start a company but hard to grow it. And I think that's a reflection of the business cycles being compressed and the amount of information that's out there. And those that, the ones that do great, the champions, are the learners. They're the ones that can distill all the information that's out there and net it down and be able to act on it.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right on with that. So what's ahead for FreightPop in 2020? It seems like you've really hit your stride this year from the conversations that we've had, and the team seems to be firing on,
Yeah.
almost all cylinders. And so what do you see ahead for you next year?
Well, I think we've got a great year ahead of us. We're out raising our second round of venture money right now. We're hiring. We're hiring tech talent and full stack developers and director of engineering, and we're hiring salespeople. So we're going to be growing the team. That's always exciting.
That is.
We're growing the platform. We want to stick to our vision of having this massively connected platform with one login for all shipping and logistics. And where we're adding to that now is the ability to rate shop and get discounted rates from preferred partners and marketplaces out there. So we're building a lot of that into the platform. So that's really exciting. And then I think laying in the foundations of the culture. But I think we talk about this among the internal team. By the way, got a great internal team. A couple of co-founders, Doug Enriquez, he's been with me for almost 20 years
Wow.
at Horizon, and he ran operations, and he's the domain expert in logistics and operations. And it's really his passion and his idea. He inspires us all with his ridiculous work ethic and hours. And then running our revenue side is Justin Dixon. He was VP of sales over at Dealer Socket. So
Another great Orange County story.
Another great Orange County story. And we have this sort of weird connection with Dealer Socket, where I think people that are involved in the success of their model look at FreightPop and say, yeah, it's a different market, it's a different customer, auto dealer versus shippers, but they recognize that it's very similar benefits, and we're at a very similar stage as when they started. However, the market is, way, way bigger in shippers than it is for auto dealers, as you can imagine. So we tend to have this kind of connection, and anybody that sees ours says, oh yeah, that looks familiar. How can I be a part of it? So that's been fantastic. Cool. Justin's been great, a ton of energy, and he's certainly a rising star in the revenue generation in Orange County in the tech scene. So be looking for that.
Yeah, that's great. So you've been here for a while, Kurt, and have been an entrepreneur here. I spent a lot of time with the show talking to your colleagues, other entrepreneurs around Orange County. How do you find Orange County as a place to be an entrepreneur?
I think it's a little bit underrated. I think it's a great place. I mean, besides the fantastic weather and all the great things to do here, really the people are what make it special. And once you make the effort to go out, get outside the company, outside the walls of the company, and connect with those people in whatever space you're in, whatever industry you're in, I think that makes all the difference. And then you realize how special it is here.
What I feel like we've just gotten to know each other over the last couple of years. What is it that has compelled you in the last couple of years to get out into the community more than maybe you did in the prior era of being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's probably been over the last 5 years, and I think just maturing and understanding that there's that's where life is with people. It's not in things or even building a company. It's about the people, and the people that you develop relationships with, and that you can touch, that you can help. So I think maybe 5 or 6 years ago I kind of realized that and made the intentional effort to go out and start those relationships.
That's great. So I believe, and I'd love your perspective on this. I believe that we can build better companies by really being together more and interconnecting more, and really have been trying to champion that with a lot of the friends that I have here, who often, I think a big tendency of entrepreneurs is to self-talk and say, I've got to focus, I've got to carry the weight and
Yeah.
the water on
Yeah.
this company, and if I don't do it, we're likely to fail. And so that prioritization, how do you think about that maybe differently now, or how to help? Because I think it often leads also to the entrepreneur even wrapping their identity in their company, and I think everybody's more than just the company or the business that they're currently leading. So.
Yeah,
Love your reaction to some of this.
It's a great point. I think entrepreneurs in general, I'm certainly guilty for too long, was simply focused on that hard edge of execution, on, if I don't get it done, it's not going to get done. I just think that that's a pretty naive perspective to have. And as you see other cases and study other successful entrepreneurs and other successful people in life, you come to realize that, okay, it's not. It's a team game. For sure, it's a team game. It always has been, but I think you have to let go that you're the last line of defense, which for me, a lot of that comes back to my faith and understanding that there's things I can control and there's a heck of a lot of things I can't control. So to understand which ones fall into which bucket, I think is liberating. And then, you go out and you work hard every day, and as long as I do it for the glory of God, then it's okay.
That's great. What do you think? You've been out now in the community for the last few years. What are things that you think we can do better as a interconnected innovation community to really, make Orange County less underrated and start to lead a little bit more?
Yeah, I think, one, it's exactly what you're doing, and that's connecting people. I think we all can be facilitators of that, but that seems to be your gift. So more of that. I think everybody, there's, whether it's more events like your breakfasts or more just times of getting together and sharing that. But I also think some highlighting some of the successes.
Yes.
Like we talked about Dealer Socket. It's probably it's one of the most unknown success stories in Orange County. What a fantastic story it is. So hearing more about those stories of success puts us on the map.
Yes.
And I think makes other smart people want to come here and join in.
Yes. Well, that I will make the note, and I will make sure to reach out to John Ord and get him on here sometime in 2020. So that's a great reminder. And again, somebody I met 10, 12 years ago even. So it's been a great story. So Kurt, unfortunately, Paul's giving me the time sign over here, and time always goes too quickly here on Accelerated OC, unfortunately. Yep. But one thing I want you to, you've shared a lot of really a good wisdom and perspective on how grounded and centered you are in the way that you show up and the way that you operate, but want you to leave a piece of advice or a key lesson with the audience today. So sure. Final lap, what would you like to leave with the audience?
Sure. I'm a big quote guy. I love quotes. And we have one wall in our conference room that's dedicated to quotes. There's probably 50 or 60 of them. So one of my favorite ones there is, "There's no traffic jam on the extra mile." That's Zig Ziglar, going back here. But that I think that epitomizes. It's so funny because I had the notes for our conversation here on the kitchen table, and I have my two older kids came in from college last night, and one of them, I think it was probably my son, apparently read my notes and scribbled on there about that question: work hard, stay humble, which is the same as that. But we've got a sign. It's kind of our mantra. And we have shirts made up: work hard, stay humble. We have it on the wall. So I think just going the extra mile sets you apart from so many people and so many companies out there now, or students. If you're a student, it's the same thing. Just go the extra mile.
That's great. Well, Kurt, thank you so much for taking us on this ride today and sharing your wisdom and your leadership approach and lessons and the entrepreneurial journey. I can only wish you more continued success with FreightPop, and know that you're building a company of significance and impact, not only in the industry, but particularly here in Orange County. You're definitely doing your part to accelerate OC. Welcome to the family.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And thanks for all you do and for the opportunity to be on the show. You're doing great work. Keep it up.
Thanks.
You've just listened to Accelerate OC. Join our live recordings every Tuesday morning at accelerateoc.com or listen, like, and share anytime from your favorite podcast spot. Let's accelerate OC together.